Hey everybody, welcome back around to the Blog and Grill. I am your host, Doug, here with your video blog for August 11th, 2014. I have a great blog once again planned for you today. We got NFL two-a-days with the Browns and the Steelers as we finish up the AFC North. We'll also go to Valhalla and talk about the PGA Championship and Rory McIlroy. But first, I want to discuss the tragedy at the Canandaigua Motorsports Park that occurred on Saturday. I'm just going to touch on it briefly, then we're going to get to some other NASCAR stuff. And basically what happened is, everybody knows by now, Tony Stewart strikes Kevin Ward Jr. with his car after spinning out Ward. Ward comes down the track to point at Stewart, and he just gets caught up in Stewart's car. He's thrown to the side and later dies in the hospital. And people are just missing the point on this completely. It doesn't matter whose fault it is at this point. We have a 20-year-old that's dead, and we have issues in a sprint car sport where we had a guy coming down the track, and we're going to see some new rules definitely put into place. From this point forward, it matters what Tony Stewart does, because he can either make this really good or he can make it really bad. I'm going to be cheering for Tony Stewart when he gets back in the race car on Sunday, definitely. But he has the chance to make an impact, very positive or very negative, depending on what he says. We still haven't heard from Tony. He's going to likely do an interview sometime this week. We will hear from Tony, and I think it was a good decision that he didn't race at Watkins Glen. But if he can somehow find a way to still get a win, he can get into the chase, and I think it'd be very exciting if he did, for sure. So he didn't race at the Glen. A.J. Allmendinger wins the race after getting by Marcus Ambrose late. There's now 4 races till the chase, and the Cup standings are getting tight. We now have 12 drivers with a win. 13, 14, 15, and 16 are Kenseth, Newman, Larson, and Clint Boyer. They are all without wins, but still some guys down below that know how to get into the chase that could win a race. Tony Stewart in 35th. He has to get into the top 30. Martin Truex Jr., Jamie McMurray, Marcus Ambrose, and the rookie Austin Dillon. Also Casey Kane and Greg Biffle are just on the outside looking in. And Greg Biffle could run good this coming weekend at Michigan. So we'll have a lot more NASCAR. We're going to keep you up to date on all this that goes on with the Kevin Ward Jr. Tony Stewart thing. We'll keep you up to date on that as well. But now it's time for NFL two-a-days. Our first two-a-day goes with the Cleveland Browns, who last year were 4-12. They played 3 quarterbacks. Not a very solid passing attack, a very good defensive attack. They had big numbers put up by Jordan Cameron and also the wide receiver Josh Gordon, but really not a lot of great play by this team. Their draft, I'm going to give them a B+. I think they got 2 really good picks. They picked up the quarterback Johnny Manziel, and they also picked up the defensive back Justin Gilbert out of Oklahoma State. But really after that, they really didn't improve their team at all. A lot of key additions for sure. They bring in Mike Pettin as a head coach, a defensive-minded guy. They also bring in Kyle Shanahan as the offensive coordinator. They brought in some weapons too. They bring in the running back Ben Tate. They bring in 2 wide receivers, Andre Hawkins and Miles Austin, and also a defensive back in Aaron Berry. Key departures, not really many. They lose Devon Best at wide receiver, but they easily replace him with Hawkins and Austin, and they also lose their defensive back Darwin Cook. I think the big question for the Browns going into this season is which quarterback will start the majority of the games. I think it's just going to come down to what they're thinking about. If they think Hoyer can have an impact this year and they can win now with Hoyer, they're going to go with Hoyer. But eventually, I think it's going to be Johnny Manziel's job, and I think he could struggle. Ultimately, I think the Browns will finish at 6-10. Alright, the PGA Championship, the final major of the year in golf, finished up yesterday with a phenomenal finish. That was just great golf, coming down the stretch, racing against the sunset because it rained a lot, and Rory McIlroy shoots -16 for the tournament and wins by a stroke over Phil Mickelson. That's now his 4th major of his career. He's now won back-to-back majors, and he beat Phil Mickelson, and Phil kind of beat himself. Phil almost eagled 18, really came close to it. And this sets up an exciting start to next year's golf season. We're going to have the Masters in 2015, and this will be a must-watch. Rory McIlroy will be going for the career Grand Slam and probably taking over the golfing world. Also, we'll probably see Tiger Woods. That'll be one of his first tournaments back next year. coming off this back injury. Maybe he can get it healed up, and it would be great if we saw McIlroy and Woods at the top of the leaderboard at the Masters next year on Sunday. All right, time for the second NFL two-a-day with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers last year were 8-8. Good passing offense. Big Ben put up some of the better numbers of his career, and some good pass defense, but their rushing offense and rushing defense were not very good. Draft A-. I'm giving them the best first 4 picks of any team in the draft. They get Ryan Shazier, the inside linebacker out of Ohio State. They get the defensive end Stephon Tuitt out of Notre Dame. Dree Archer, underrated Darren Sproles-like guy out of Kent State. And they also get the wide receiver Martavius Bryant out of Clemson. Key additions, they bring in Cam Thomas on the defensive line. They also bring in Darius Hayward-Bay at wide receiver and Will Allen at safety. Players that they lost, key departures, Lamar Woodley, the linebacker, leaves. Emmanuel Sanders goes to Denver, and Ryan Clark goes to the Washington Redskins. I think the big question has to be, does Big Ben have enough weapons with Darius Hayward-Bay, with Antonio Brown, with possibly Bryant coming in and playing some wide receiver? It's going to be interesting to see. I think they have a very solid season, and I have them finishing second in the AFC North with the same record as the Bengals at 10-6. So the AFC North standings will shape up with Cincinnati and Pittsburgh tied at 10-6. Cincinnati will win the tiebreaker with a better record against AFC opponents. Baltimore will be in at 9-7, and Cleveland at 6-10. Time for your New York sports update. Yankees finish off their homestand at 4-3. Not a real good finish to the homestand. They're now 2.5 games back for the second wild card. A big 3-game series starts up in Oakland tonight, or not in Oakland, in Baltimore. Yankees need to sweep Baltimore to stay in this race for a playoff position. They need to sweep Baltimore for sure. Tonight it'll be Capuano versus Bud Norris, 1-2, 3-9-1 for Cap against Norris, who's 9-7 with a 3-6-8. Yankees are 6 games behind Baltimore. And the Yankees also announced today Michael Pineda will make a start on Wednesday for the Yankees in Baltimore. He will be limited to around 90 pitches. Mets take 2 out of the first 3 from the Philadelphia Phillies, and today they had an afternoon game in Philly. Mets leading right now 5-2 in the bottom of the 9th. Jonathan Neese and Buchanan went toe-to-toe today. Mets are 6.5 games back in for a wild card spot. Wednesday, I'm going to give you my highs and lows of preseason week 1. We'll also talk Major League Baseball standings as we head to the playoffs in 2-a-days with the Texans and the Colts as we head to the AFC South. New blog schedule for the next couple of weeks. We're going to be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. So tune in on Thursday to another great episode of Doug's Sports Blog and Grill. I'll be back on Wednesday, though. Check me out on sportsmindednews.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at YankeeBaller415. You can comment, questions, subscribe to my page. Thanks for tuning in to the Blog and Grill. I will be back on Wednesday. Have a good start to your week.